Remember the hereafter, and you will remember why you are here. Remember the hereafter, and you will remember why you are here and what you are after.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا حبيب الله
وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا حبيب الله
الصلاة والسلام عليك يا نبي الله
الصلاة والسلام عليك يا نبي الله
وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا نور الله
وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا نور الله
صلى الله تعالى على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Welcome back to YOLO, viewers of Madani Channel. When it comes to the world of Islam and the great scholars, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam's famous Hadith Mubarakah, that the scholars of my ummah are like the prophets of the Bani Israel. These amazing personalities. Now, we're going to talk about another genius. And Yaqeen Karenge, he's so amazing that if we were to sit here for weeks, we wouldn't be able to do justice to this topic. But before I introduce my great personality of today, let's start with a blessing of Durood Pak. I hope had the honor and the pleasure of visiting Madinatul Munawwarah, and those who do visit there and have the honor of seeing the beautiful Gumbad Khazra Sharif, take time and go to Uhud Sharif. And they always spend time there and they do dua at the Mazar Pak of Hazrat Amir Hamza, Sayyidul Shuhda, and they do the ziyarat of Mount Uhud Sharif. An amazing mountain, a mountain from the mountains of paradise, and it is huge as well. I think the dimensions are something like 7.5 kilometers long it is. So it is huge. And if you're flying as well, and you fly into the city of Madinatul Munawwarah, or you fly back from there, often you fly over, well, not exactly over it, but past it, and you can see the beauty of it. It is amazing. It is a scene at night, honestly, that sticks in your mind. Amazing. Wow. Now, let me tell you about this mountain. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam has said that whoever recites Durood Pak upon me, Allah Azza wa Jal writes one Qiraat Sawab in His book of deeds. And how big is a Qiraat? It is the size of Mount Uhud. Subhanallah, a huge mountain. That much reward you get for reciting Durood Pak upon Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is why we should decorate our lives with reciting Durood Pak upon Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In the Madani environment of Dawati Islami, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Amir al-Sunnah Damud Barakatum al-Aliyah instills this in us. When you get up in the morning, you've got to recite the dua for waking up. But before you do, recite Durood Pak. When you're leaving your home, the dua for leaving the home. But before you do, recite Durood Pak. When you get in your car and you're on a journey, recite the dua for the journey. But before you do, make sure you read Durood Pak. And in this way, we decorate our lives with Durood Pak. And every time we recite Salatu Salam upon the best of creation, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, these huge rewards are being written for us in our book of deeds. Now, we haven't got much else, so this is what we rely on, and inshallah it is something we can rely on the Day of Judgment. So decorate your lives with Durood Pak upon Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallu alal Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
SubhanAllah. Well, there's a few things. Mashallah, you mentioned the Durood Sharif. I was like, wow, mashallah, it's beautiful, the point you mentioned. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states and promises Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, إِذَا ذُكِرْتُ ذُكِرْتَ مَعِيَّ.
Allah,
whenever
Allah.
I am mentioned, you are also mentioned. So you beautifully put it. You beautifully put it there. That whenever you read the dua, what's the dua? Alhamdulillah alladhi, many a time. Which is praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So wherever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is mentioned. This is Amir al-Sunnah teaching us to do this. But I've got a question for you, Ruma. I've got a question for you. You mentioned in regards to the mountain of Uhud, and you mentioned on a plain. Now that region, the entire region is quite mountainous. There's many hills there. How are you able to identify Uhud?
You can recognize it. I'll be honest with you. You can recognize Uhud Sharif, and especially if you fly at night, it's lit up with lights anyway. And it's the only one
there's a secret.
It's the only one that's lit up with lights. But basically, once you get on the plane you always look out through the windows to try and see the Masjid Sharif, Masjid Nabawi Sharif, and try and gain the last blessings that you can by beholding it. And so you can tell where Masjid Nabawi Sharif is, and you can see Mount Uhud. But the other thing is that it is lit up at night very beautifully. It's got these floodlights all around it as well.
That's a secret.
That's a secret. So next time, and you make dua that Ya Allah, do bring us back. If you're leaving from there, may Allah take us all there time and time again. What I'll do is I'll cut to the introductions. And alhamdulillah, as you all know now, we've got our beloved Shabazz Bhai with us, mashallah, a Madani, a teacher in our Jamia as well. May Allah increase his ilm and amal, his piety and his taqwa. And we've got with Shabazz Bhai, returning after a short break, our beloved Bisharat Bhai, mashallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Coming to the topic that we had today, we're talking about somebody who was truly amazing. His intellectual ability was next to none. But what I'm going to just briefly say before we delve into that topic is this, that his lineage goes back to the best of creation, sallallahu alayhi wa wasallam, and all the great titles of being a Qurayshi, being a Hashmi, through his mother, and goes back to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa wasallam, and then not only does he have that great honor and privilege, but he also has another privilege that Allah Azza wa Jal bestowed him, because Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, the best of time is mine, and then the one after that, and the generation after that. And he came in the third generation that Aka Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned. Before we go into it though, we're going to just briefly, I'll tell you that this particular hasti, this particular personality, millions of people around the world admire. Even non-Muslims around the world study his works. He was so amazing. So we'll start by giving you this brief introduction into the life of Hazrat Imam Abu Abdullah Muhammad bin Idris Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi. His name was Muhammad, this was his great title. He was such a great scholar, an Imam, a Mujaddid of the 2nd century Hijri, that when it comes to great scholars, there is none like him. He was so amazing. And inshallah we'll delve into his life. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu.
Remember the hereafter, and you will remember why you are here and what you are after.
So born 150 Hijri in Gaza, in Palestine. And at the time of his birth, his blessed father, who was a tradesman, who was a businessman, had already passed away, and his mother, Fatima bint Abdullah, rahmatullah alayha, was a very pious waliya of Allah Azza wa Jal, and she, in this kind of story of Hazrat Imam Shafi'i, rahmatullah alayhi, we're going to learn a lot, and I want the viewers of Madani Channel to really concentrate, because there are not only great lessons in relation to this amazing scholar, but he became who he became because of this great mother, this waliya behind him. So I'll start from there, and Shabazz Bhai, let us understand the birth and what the environment was like first.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyid al-Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen, amma ba'd. فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Now let's firstly speak about his lineage, inshallah. His mother her name was Fatima. Alhamdulillah, beautiful name. Alhamdulillah. Bint Abdullah. Hazrat Abdullah was the son of Hazrat Hassan Muthanna, who was the son of Hazrat Imam Hassan. Hassan ibn Ali, Hassan the son of Hazrat Fatima, grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is how close her lineage. So her lineage went directly back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Just a few generations.
Yes. But her father was, so to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is like Ibn Am. He was the child of the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because from his father, the lineage did not go back directly to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They went back to his Hashim. So it was Hashimi.
Yeah, subhanallah.
Now, in regards to again his lineage, so it was Muhammad ibn Idris. Idris was the name of his father. Idris was the son of an individual by the name of Abbas. Abbas was the son of somebody by the name of Uthman. Now Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu was a tabi'i. Hazrat Uthman was a tabi'i, and his father was Shafi'i. So Hazrat Imam Shafi'i takes his name, the nisbah, as Shafi'i, from not his father, his grandfather, great-grandfather, but like great-great-grandfather.
Allah.
His name was Shafi' ibn Sa'ib. Now he was a companion. He's considered amongst the younger companions. But his father, and this is so beautiful, Haruma, really. His father, Sa'ib ibn Ubaid, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he took part on the side of the non-Muslims in the Battle of Badr. He was taken as a prisoner, Haruma. He was taken as a prisoner. And the prisoners, there was no such thing as jails or anything like this. What would happen was the prisoners were placed with the Muslims. Where did they live? They lived in the houses of the Muslims. What did they eat? They ate the food of the Muslims. They shared everything.
Allah.
So it's not like prison, it's like guests. Really, alhamdulillah.
This is the beauty of Islam.
It is the beauty of Islam. Now, he lived there, he stayed there as a prisoner, and he waited for the ransom. They had to pay a particular amount of ransom depending on their own financial, you could say, status or what they possessed. So he waited, he sent somebody to bring the ransom. They paid off the ransom for him. Now he was free, then he accepts Islam.
Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah.
And the people said, why did he just accept Islam before? Why he accepted Islam now? And he says that these people have been so kind. I wish for first the ransom to be paid so they can get the benefit, and then I'm going to accept Islam.
Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah.
Allahu Akbar. This is a beautiful lesson on its own, Harun, by really. The kindness, the affection, these were the prisoners, these were the enemies, the one who killed, yes, many Muslims. These were considered to be the enemy. But look at the kindness shown to them. And this really, it shows, alhamdulillah, that our deen, look back in history, Harun Bhai. Can you find any example like this whatsoever? I promise you can't. I'll tell you can't.
There isn't. And the other thing that comes to mind, Shahbaz Bhai, is this, that, you know, when you're establishing a sultanate, a kingdom, at that time, if you look at the books of history, often what happens is that the first conquest, there is wide bloodshed, there is torture, there is tyranny, there is oppression. And then gradually, as the state is established, then years down the line, decades down the line, it becomes all peace and tranquil. Yeah, that's the normal...
Even that peace and tranquil, that's debatable, Harun Bhai.
But
depending on which incident.
Once the Hukumat takes it. But in the whole of the history of mankind, you will never have a conquest like the conquest of Mecca. These were the people who tortured the Muslims. These were the people who gave aziyat, to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These are the ones who tortured the family of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who put the Sahaba Ikram through so much that they migrated to different places. And yet, when Mecca is conquered, and Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam enters Mecca and enters in a humble way and gives amnesty to everybody. I mean, the people couldn't believe it. The people couldn't. How can this happen? That we've been torturing them so much so that they leave, Makkah al-Mukarramah, and they have to migrate to Medina, and yet they come in this way. And so this amazing story starts at the feet of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Coming back to Imam Shafi'i, you were telling us.
Hazrat Imam Shafi'i, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, I'm just wondering, that's his lineage.
Yes.
His father, as he mentioned, passed away when he was very, very young. Hazrat Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he states about him, he says that Kana Shafi'i, that Hazrat Imam Shafi'i radiallahu ta'ala anhu was mujaddidu, he was the mujaddid of the Mi'at al-Thaniya, the 2nd century. So Hazrat Umar ibn Abdul Aziz was the mujaddid of the 1st century. Hazrat Imam Shafi'i radiallahu ta'ala anhu was the mujaddid of the 2nd century. There's a hadith sharif of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam which states, إِنَّ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى قَدْ يَبْعَثُ لِهَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ عَلَى رَأْسِ كُلِّ مِئَةِ سَنَةٍ مَنْ يُجَدِّدُ لَهَا دِينَهَا. That indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends such an individual upon the ending of every century, an individual who shall revive the deen of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the scholars, they say this, Hazrat Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal is saying this. He's mentioning the Hadith Sharif, he's saying that he's a Mujaddid. And then it states that if we were to take a look at the scholars of that time, there is nobody who revived, and they mention these words, there's nobody who revived the Sunnah like Hazrat Imam Shafi'i radiallahu ta'ala did.
I wanted to come back to his childhood, because before his birth, his blessed father passes away.
Yes.
His mother has a dream, and in that dream there is a star that is falling onto Egypt and spreading. Jupiter.
A celestial being, you can say,
celestial, yeah. And it is falling onto Egypt and then spreading out. And when the interpretation of that is sought, it said, you will give birth to a scholar who will spread the deen of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, with that knowledge in mind, from an early age, what was the upbringing that the great mother of Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi did? I mean, I want to...
He wasn't always in the deen. From the beginning, he wasn't. We take the example of Hazrat Nu'man bin Thabit Abu Hanifa radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Same with Hazrat Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. He was in his business. This is how he was brought up. Hazrat Imam Shafi'i loved pigeons, and it said that in fact what he loved most was archery.
Archery,
I had interest in two particular things. في الرمي وفي طلب العلم. In archery, one thing, and the second was in seeking knowledge. And he says that when it comes to Rami, he says when he speaks about archery, he says, I became so good at it until I got 10 out of 10 shots. That for every shot I would take, the arrow, if you call it a shot, I don't know. For every shot I would take, 10 out of 10 I would get the
every arrow he would
get
fire.
The point.
Yeah, and the most amazing thing about that.
And then he states, فَسَكَتَ عَنِ الْعِلْمِ. He himself is speaking about this. So he's speaking about, yes, I was the best shooter, you can say. But then the Rawi, the person who's narrating this, he states, فَسَكَتَ عَنِ الْعِلْمِ. Then in regards to his knowledge, he didn't say nothing. So he said, I love two things, archery, knowledge. This is how good I was at archery. But he remained silent about knowledge. And then the student or whoever it was that was there, he says that by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I swear that you are even greater in knowledge than you were in archery.
That's exactly the point I was making. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I mean, he enjoyed horses and horse riding, and he had these interests. Coming back to his early tarbiyat, his early upbringing by his mother though, she wanted to give him pure Arabic, teach him Arabic, keep him strong in Arabic. And so she started to teach him the glorious Quran herself. And at the age of 7, he became a Hafiz-e-Quran at the hands of his blessed mother.
Yes.
I mean, that is amazing.
It is.
I mean, today, our sisters and, daughters and mothers, they send the child off to madrasa and say, Imam Sahib will teach them. They haven't got time. They don't want to spend any time teaching the child. I mean, how brilliant were these mothers who dedicated their life? I mean, she must have dedicated her, 7-year-old. Our 7-year-olds are just on the Madani Qaida. I mean, I know my 7-year-old is just coming up to, I think, lesson 22 on Madani Qaida.
They join the madrasa at the age of 5, 6.
But, I mean, he must have been a genius to be a Hafiz-e-Quran at 7 years of age, and it tells you so much about his blessed mother as well.
I mean, there's a waqia regarding the mother of Imam Shafi'i, rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi as well. She was so pious that people used to come and give their belongings to her in order that she'd keep them secure, and then obviously they'd come back and then they would take them from her. So there's a waqia regarding two men who came to her and they left like a box as an amanat, and then they left. And then a time passed, and then one of the men, he came back and he collected this box and went. And then the other person who was part of the two that initially came, when he came, he asked about the box, and the blessed mother of Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah ta'ala, she turned around and said, well, the other man, he came, he's taken it. And he said, yeah, but we instructed you at the time that only both of us, when we both arrive, that you give the box. So he left. And Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah ta'ala, he arrives home, and he's only 6 years old, mind you.
Allah.
He arrives home from the madrasa, and he sees his mum, and this is a lesson for all children as well. It doesn't matter what age you are. He sees his mum, that she's parishan, she's worried. So he asks his mother, dear mother, why are you parishan? Why are you worried? What are you worried about? So she tells him. So this is another thing for parents as well, a lesson for parents, that we should speak about our troubles and difficulties to our children as well. And she tells him that this is what's happened. So Imam Shafi'i, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, mind you, he's 6 years old. He goes out and he goes, don't worry to his mom, I'll sort it out for you. So he goes out and he meets this man, the man, and he advises the man and he says to the man that, this is your problem and this is how to resolve it. So what was his problem? That he should have received the box when both of the men were present. So he says to him, he goes, you go and find your friend, the person with the box, return with him, and this way your problem is solved as well. And he couldn't comprehend that, a 6-year-old child is giving me the solution to my answer. He wanted to receive the box whilst the other man was there. So he said, go and find him. When you come back with him, there's your solution. You're both together. And subhanallah azza wa jal, this is like a 6-year-old child. And apart from that, we learn as well about the seerah that, without a father, without a breadwinner in the household, it's difficult. And Zahir he was brought up with extreme, shall we say, poverty.
Poverty, yeah.
Yeah, and with the Blessed Mother, and just imagine how much she had on her shoulders in terms of giving tarbiyat to a child, and at the same time, making sure that he's got all the necessities that he needs.
I mean, just on that 2 points. One was, can you imagine the taqwa, the fear of Allah, the piety of this mother, who the people are coming to put their amanas with, like Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was the daughter of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the progeny sense, and they were trusting the daughter of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the other point is this, that Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi had this great intellect. Now, a lot of the times, our children are very clever, and what we think is, Chilaji, we've got 3-4 sons. He's going to be a doctor. He's going to be a barrister. He's going to be an engineer. That's what we do, though. Unfortunately, Nigrani Shura says this, and he says it without any. He says, look, the final product is only as good as the raw material you put in. You give us the geniuses. You give us your best child, and we will make something of him. Don't give us the one who's not going anywhere. And when it came to the mother of Hazrat Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi, he was the only son, but what she did was said, I'm going to dedicate this son to the deen of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But she didn't stop there. She didn't just make the niyat. We all make the intention. She then spent her life, because if you study the life of Hazrat Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi, all the way through, when he gets older, she goes to the governor of Mecca and asks him to write a letter to the governor of Medina to go and do sifarish in the court of Hazrat Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayhi, and for him to take Hazrat Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi as a student. Now, I'm going to come back to that and his learning of Muwatta Sharif and everything else in the Hadith Mubarakas, but look at the planning of the Blessed Mother. And it's a lesson for our mothers out there and our sisters and daughters. We plan all these functions, we plan this, we plan that. The true mothers of Islam, the true, ummatis of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, these people were planning how to make their children scholars of the deen and strong in the deen of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So she comes from Gaza to Makkah Park. Even in Makkah Park, though, there was one narration which said that even in Makkah Park, the Hazrat Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha sent Hazrat Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi alayhi to a certain tribe which had a very pure Arabic dialect, and she left him there for years so that he could pick up the pure Arabic, so he became a master in Arabic.
Yes. So this tribe was known as the Banu Hudayl. This is also taken from the Seerah of Rasulallah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and children were sent to the desert. Why? One thing is the pure Arabic language. So this pure Arabic language. But another is that even in them days, they would consider the outskirts of the desert to be hard life. So it's preparing for them, preparing them for their future. That when you are going to study knowledge, you are going to go through many difficulties. Now, we're not saying that don't give your children ease, but they need to face some difficulty, because everyone's going to face a hardship in their life. Everybody's going to come across some sort of obstacles throughout their life. So Imam Shafi'i, and there's many important lessons to take from this. Another is distancing yourself from your child, which is
sake of
not
deen.
an easy thing to do. Which is not an easy thing to do for the mother, but for the sake of the religion. He distanced himself from her. And this is not easy to do for a mother. This only a mother can understand. The reason why I feel so much for this is because of my own mother. May Allah Ta'ala grant her Jannah.
Ameen.
Because initially she didn't want to let me go. She didn't want to let me go. But you know, they would tell me that she would fight with my dad. Don't send him, don't send him. But alhamdulillah, you know, later my mother accepted her and she was really happy. But people would always tell me afterwards that your mother was always like this. She was always talking about. So these things, they come to my mind, and when I read this about Hadith of Imam Shafi'i, I'm thinking that, you know, their mother, we do not understand. This is only something a mother can truly understand.
You see, mothers are very special, but when you look at the world around us, Shabazz Bey, what happens is this. Mothers accept that children need to go to university or school, and they send them to boarding schools. They send them to different places to work. They send them away. You know, I remember speaking to, obviously, our my Qibla Walid Sahab or uncles, and they said, you know, we were 9, 10 when we came here, and how difficult was that for the mother? But they thought, right, we'll make a life for himself. So mothers have done that, and they've, you know, thousands of mothers, because a lot of our previous generation, our, you know, Qibla Walid Sahab and the others, they came when they were very young, and the mothers, you know, had that burden of separation. But to do it for the deen of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that is the most amazing part of it. You know, and then sending him off there, and then sending him to Madinatul Munawwara.
Yes, and this is mentioned that it was his uncle, because the paternal uncle of Hazrat Imam Shafi'i, he also played a huge part. He made, you know, he did a lot for him. And it's mentioned that he sent the letter to Governor al-Madinatul Munawwara. But why, another lesson to take is that they wanted the best for their child. You know, when it comes to, if we were to, nowadays, kids don't only go to school, but subsequently, after their school, they wish for extra lessons, and they wish to get the best of teachers. And there's no harm in doing this. You want the best teacher for your child. But there's two things, Harun Bhai. One is that this was not just for anything. Whenever we send our child to learn the Qaeda or the Quran, we'll just send them to the local masjid. And we have no idea what's taking place, no idea what the child's learning or anything. So this which she did was for the deen. It wasn't because it's going to benefit her in terms of economically, wealth, no way whatsoever. But it was for the deen. That's why she went through all of this.
But there's no doubt Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah was such a genius that if the Blessed Mother had sent him on to study in higher education or anything like that, I mean, that's another, the situation they were in was grave poverty, and we'll come back to that in a second. But if she did, he was such a genius that he probably would have done really well for himself in the world, but we would have never known him. But coming back to the conditions that were there, and I think Bisharat Bhai alluded to it very briefly, he didn't have, when he used to listen to Hadith Mubarakah, he didn't have a pen and paper to write it down. So the only thing he had was he had to memorize it, and even
it's mentioned bones. Sometimes he would write
he used to collect bones and pieces of leather, or he used to go outside the governor's house and try and get pieces of leftover scrap paper to try and write down. But most of the time, they say that he had no choice but to memorize. He used to sit there in the mehfils of Hadith Mubarakah, in the teachings of Hadith Mubarakah, with the knowing, you know, everybody may have pens, and knowing, I can't afford a pen, I can't afford paper, but I want to learn the Hadith of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam and commit it to memory. And even his contemporaries, even his contemporaries say that we could memorize. But his genius in memorization was just absolutely amazing.
Harun Bhai, you know, you would say photographic memory. Literally, it was like that. It said that when he would read, if he was to read, when he would read, there's to be two sides. Even in that time, there was two sides. And as soon as he would look at a piece of writing, he would immediately, he would be able to memorize it. So fast that he himself was not able to control it. Meaning, he had to, when he would turn a page over, he had to cover the other side. He had to cover the other side. He would look at one side, and then he would look at the next side. And then again, he would turn his page and he would cover the side. There's a famous story mentioned in regards to this. Harun Bhai, it states, and this is something which is very important, very, very important, and it's in regards to sins. It said that once the Imam Shafi'i, rahimallahu ta'ala, he was reading, and he lifted his gaze, and a woman was walking past, and the shin of a woman, he inadvertently, he laid eyes on. And then he quickly looked back down. But now when he looked down, that same information he was not able to retain to memory as quickly. So he thought, what's happened to me? Now there's some famous couplets which Imam Shafi'i, rahimallahu ta'ala, he himself wrote.
Because he used to be very fond of poetry, didn't he, at one point?
Because he went there and he used to learn so much poetry, etc. So he says, فَشَكَوْتُ إِلَى بَكِيعٍ. Now his teacher, one of his teachers, was by the name of Baki'. It says, فَشَكَوْتُ إِلَى بَكِيعٍ سُوءَ حِفْظِي. I went and I complained to my teacher Baki' about my bad memory. فَأَرْشَدَنِي إِلَى تَرْكِ الْمَعَاصِي. So he guided me and he told me to give up sins. He told me to give up sins. فَإِنَّ الْعِلْمَ نُورٌ. Allahu Akbar, my dear viewers of Madani Channel, please just take heed of this. He says, فَإِنَّ الْعِلْمَ نُورٌ. For indeed knowledge is light. وَنُورُ اللَّهِ لَا يُهْدَى لِعَاصِي. And the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not gifted to a sinner.
Allah.
Harun Bhai, this is so deep, honestly, that we think to ourselves, our memories are so weak. Really, our memories are really, really weak, very weak. And my dear viewers, what's the reason? Sins. Every single one of us, the amount we commit sins, astaghfirullah. We should all do tawbah, astaghfirullah. We always commit so much sins. And this is one of the reasons for our weak, bad memories, for our lack of, not being gifted the knowledge of Allah.
There's something very important you say there, because over the last, say, 20 years, there has been a gradual decline in memory and ability to retain information, especially, religious information as well. And if you look at it, it's the same era that internet and social media has taken over.
Yes.
So as you're increasing that, the more wrong that you look at, even inadvertently, the more wrong that you look at, the more it depletes your memory and your memorization power and the strength.
I was going to just mention a nuskha I read earlier on regarding Sayyidina Imam Shafi'i, rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi. He says, the one who keeps his clothes clean and tidy gains a reduction in his worries, and the one who wears fine perfume gains an increase in his intellect.
Subhanallah.
So by keeping yourself clean, you remain worryless, and alhamdulillah, by keeping yourself fragrant, it improves your intellect.
Yes, mashallah.
So the early childhood was evolved around giving Hazrat Imam Shafi'i rahmatullahi a great upbringing, and this thirst for knowledge actually shone in him as a child. So we get to the court of Hazrat Imam Malik. Now, I want you to, Shahbaz, just give us a brief description. I know that it's a very difficult subject, but who was Imam Malik? Because we seem to, the great Hazrat Imam Shafi'i wanted to be a student. His mother wanted him to go there. This great Hasti was in Madinatul Munawwarah. He was one of the greatest scholars that has ever walked the surface of the earth. We're going to speak about him next week. But I just want you to encompass it in a short, just to give our viewers an understanding of who he was, and then we'll carry on with Imam Shafi'i, because then you'll get a better understanding of Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi.
I'll keep it very simple, Harun Bhai. There's a Hadith Sharif of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He states that yushiku that a time shall come for the people when yudribu akbad al-ibil, they will strike the flanks of their horses or animals, and they will not find anybody more knowledgeable or greater than the alim al-Madina, than the scholar of al-Madinah al-Munawwarah. This is the Hadith Sharif of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the scholars state that who this is referring to is Hazrat Imam Malik.
Allah, Allah, Allah. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam is giving his ummah the glad tidings of such a great scholar. I mean, you summed it up. What more can you say than the best of creation sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, my ummah is being gifted with this great scholar. So it's that amazing history. I mean, I remember there's something I came across that the governor of Medina was too scared to speak in the court of Hazrat Imam Malik rahmatullah alayhi.
He says Hazrat Imam Shafi'i rahmallahu ta'ala is able to do such with his tongue, with his speech, which even a fighter is not able to do with his sword.
Allah, 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 subhanallah.
One narrations mentioned that a person, now Imam Shafi'i rahmallahu ta'ala, he would debate quite a bit. He would debate. There would be many debates. And once a person debated Hazrat Imam Shafi'i, and he said that Hazrat Imam Shafi'i, he defeated him. And there are many stories, by the way, in regards to the debates of Hazrat Imam Shafi'i. But one states that he defeated him, quite easily. And somebody came to the governor, and they said to the governor that this is what's happened. And the governor said that, what else can I expect? What else can I expect? This is Imam Shafi'i. Beautiful incident as to how this happens. Now, sending a letter, remember, for big scholars, this does not suffice. They're not influenced by the government. They're not influenced by the authority. There wasn't much of a, well, you can call it government authority, whatever it may be. They were not affected by them. They did not fear them. We've heard about Hazrat Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, that although they tried to make him, Mazallah, say wrong things, or to accept false beliefs, it did not affect him. He did not care. He could not be bought. So just that letter, Hazrat Imam Malik receiving that letter, it didn't mean Hazrat Imam Malik is going to teach him. No, Hazrat Imam Shafi'i, he comes to Hazrat Imam Malik, and Hazrat Imam Malik says, I'll find somebody to teach you.
Allah.
I know that I'm going to teach you, I'll find somebody. Hazrat Imam Shafi'i says, well, I'll read it. Hazrat Imam Malik says, I'll get somebody to listen to you. And he says, no, either you'll listen to me or I won't read it. And in another place it mentions that just listen to a small amount, and that he recites it, and when Hazrat Imam Malik listens, he doesn't stop him, and he continues to recite it. He continues to recite it until he's read the entire thing.
SubhanAllah.
Hazrat Imam Malik's amazing. And in fact, another thing which comes to mind is that Hazrat Imam Shafi'i had a beautiful voice. He had a beautiful voice. In fact, it was so nice that some people would say to one another, that, do you wish to cry? Look how beautiful this is. Imagine just random people thinking, do you wish to do something, what sort of things would come to mind? Go to such place, do such and such things. But look at their mindset, those people. But they said to each other, they said, look, do you wish to cry? And let's go to Imam Shafi'i, or let's go to this child. This is what I'll say. Let's go to this child. So just wanting to cry, they would go, and they would go there. Imam Shafi'i would be reciting the Quran. His voice would be so melodious that they would fall crying. When Hazrat Imam Shafi'i rahmallahu ta'ala, he realized that people, they're doing this and they're crying so much, then he said that he stopped it.
Allah.
I was going to mention, obviously this is what happens when you've got a Ba'amal Alim-e-Deen. Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah ta'ala, he serves the Hadith all his life. And then he goes to Iraq, and the people of Iraq, they give him that title of Nasirul Hadith. And then Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah ta'ala, he says regarding them, he says, I have not seen anybody obey Hadith more than Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah ta'ala.
Do you know the incident that you mentioned? In that, one of the narrations that I came across was that he said that I have learnt your Muwatta,
yes.
And I know it all, and he read it. But that didn't convince Imam Malik even then. You know what convinced him eventually? Because Imam Malik wasn't interested. Like you said, these people weren't interested in worldly gains or anything else. He said, I am from the progeny of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And at that point, the great Imam Malik couldn't say no, and that's when he took him under his wings. And amazing from there. And so then, okay, he gains his knowledge. Some of the achievements of Hazrat Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi. We know that he was one of the great scholars of madhab, and he formulated so many important principles from the Quran and the Hadith Mubarakah. And during his time, he fought with so many people who had deviant thoughts and deviant minds and wanted to introduce things into religion. We haven't got the time to go into it in detail, but I just want you to give a summary of his later life. So you've got now, this amazing personality that you've told us about. So where did he go from there?
Allahu Akbar. Now, as the Imam Shafi'i radiallahu anhu, he would debate with a lot of people. He was quite famous for this. But there's something which I really like, and I would like to mention, is the reason I'm mentioning this, is that when Hazrat Imam Shafi'i rahmallahu ta'ala would debate, depending on who he's speaking to, but he would do dua for his own opponent.
Allah.
He would say that, Ya Allah, aid him, free the knots from his tongue.
This is the person he's having a debate with.
The person he's having a debate. Why? And Harumba, this is something very important. The reason is, Harumba, is sincerity. If I was to debate you, what would I think? I would possibly wish for you to slip, for you to make a mistake. That way I can take advantage of that. I would wish for you to make mistakes. So then, I could look as the more knowledgeable person, yes. But just the Imam Shafi'i, sincerity, Harumbai. It's not about me or you. It's not about us two. It's about the deen.
Allah.
This is really sincerity.
No ego.
It's about the deen.
There's no pride.
Because I wish for the truth to come out.
Allah.
So even if, let's just say, I think I'm right, I could possibly be wrong. If the truth comes out from you, then alhamdulillah, if that's the truth, that's come out and not mine. As long as whatever's true, that comes out. This is true sincerity, Harumbai. And when we have debates, now there's different sort of debates, but here by debates, I'm referring to, having love for those individuals who you may differ on subsidiary issues which are not of important faith, important articles of faith, because that will lead a person out of the folds possibly of Islam or to misguidance, etc. And you refrain from such people. But those things which are of a lesser importance, you can say, and we shouldn't think of ourselves, as the greater person or consider the opponent to be any less than us or anything like this. He wasn't bothered about these things.
I mean, when from that age he's been teaching, he was the Hafiz of Quran, he knew his tafsir, he knew thousands of Hadith Mubarakah, he was debating about very important issues, he was writing about very important issues, he was teaching hundreds of students, and he was spreading the deen. But there was one thing that when I came across it, I thought, this is just next level, as they say in today's lingo. He never raised his voice throughout his life.
Yes.
I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Even in debate, though.
Even in debate, he never raised his voice. He always dealt with everything with cool, calm, and collectiveness. Other achievements.
I wanted to just mention, in terms of people today, unfortunately, obligatory zakat, we find it difficult to pay this. But taking away the stinginess out of people through his character, Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, he used to gift people money. And there's one example which says that he came out of a bathroom once, and he rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi had a lot of money, and he gave the entire wealth to the bath keeper. And then in another instance, Sayyidina Rabi rahmatullah alayhi, he says it was his wedding, and Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi says to him, how much is your mahar? And he says 30 dinars. And then he replies, he asks him again, and he goes, how much money do you have to give to your wife? And he humbly replies, and he says 6 dinars. And then he rahmatullah alayhi, he sends a pouch with him that contained 24 dinars in order to make up that difference.
Allah. What age did Hazrat Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi leave this world? And where is his Mazar Pak as well?
Right, Allahu Akbar. So in regards to him leaving this world, so he was born in 150 AH, same year Hazrat Imam Abu Hanifa Hazrat Nu'man bin Thabit rahmallahu ta'ala passed away. He was born 150. The year 204 was when he rahmallahu ta'ala left this world for the eternal abode. His Mizar Sharif is in Egypt, mashallah. I was so blessed to go there. It is so beautiful, Harumba, alhamdulillah. And in fact, also a worthy mention. It's in Cairo, yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah. his teacher, Hazrat Sayyidah Nafisa, radiallahu ta'ala anha, his teacher one thing, and secondly the one who paid or sponsored his studies. Yes, she paid for Hazrat Imam Shafi'i radiallahu ta'ala an. And the beautiful thing about this, Harun Bhai, is also if we look at the life of Hazrat Imam Malik, which inshallah you'll be discussing next week, we learn that he was subsidized by Hazrat Lays ibn Sa'ad, again from Egypt. You must have been there. So these people, they would pay towards the education. And look at how great these people have become. Their name has been mentioned up until this day. How many years has it been? And such people are being mentioned too, that this person was the one who paid for their studies. Allahu Akbar. My dear viewers of Madani Channel, many people think, where should I give money? I wish to give money towards this thing or towards another thing. I would advise you, the best of things would be to give money to a student of knowledge. Why some people think, yes, no, we're not saying don't give it to the poor. Alhamdulillah, we've been recommended so much to give to the poor. Many times students may be poor too. But Harun Bhai, what's the difference? I would say give it to a poor student. Harun Bhai, what's the difference is that there'll be one person, yes, mashallah, give them things, but what will they be doing throughout the day? And imagine giving it to a poor student. He'll be reciting the Quran, the translation of the Quran, the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Qala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says this, the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The entire day evolves around the deen. Then imagine how much reward you can gain. So many people, I don't know if you are aware, inshallah you can sponsor students of Jami'atul Madina, sponsor students of Madaris, of our Madrasatul Madinas. Honestly, please do this. Inshallah, this is possibly the best form of Sadaqah Jariyah.
Viewers of Madani Channel, go and read about Hazrat Imam Shafi'i rahmatullah alayhi, Hazrat Imam Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi, Hazrat Imam Malik, Hazrat Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi. These are great hastis. And when you look at their lives, you look at those who were around them, who helped them to become these great scholars who have been shining bright for 1460 years, and their lights will continue till the day of judgment. Why? Because it's the light of the deen of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. We need to try and follow in their footsteps. And the biggest lesson that I've learned today is, especially for our mothers and sisters, when your child is young, give them the dreams and hopes, but instill in them the love of the deen of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That will make them successful in both worlds. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala.
Remember the hereafter, and you will remember why you are here and what you are after.
Now, in our social issue today, we've got a very, very important and very interesting topic. A lot of us, when it comes to Shahbaz Bhai, like New Year's resolutions. Well, we have a certain time set, and a lot of people say, I'm going to become pious when it comes to Ramzan. I'm going to read more Quran when it comes to Ramzan. I'm going to do this when it comes to Ramzan. And then what happens is, after a few days, the first of Ramzan, they read the para and they've done their zikr during the day, and the second of Ramzan comes and there's still a bit of enthusiasm, and the third of Ramzan at the iftari, now it's down to a few lines, and suddenly it disappears. And today, what I wanted to talk about was proper preparation for Ramzan al-Mubarak in relation to what sort of mental preparations we need, and what sort of actions we need to start doing now. For example, a lot of people, they leave the paying of their zakat till the last moment, sometime during Ramadan. Yet it was the way of the Sahaba Ikram to do it early, and their thinking, their Madani Soch was amazing, because it wasn't that, let's get rid of it so we're free. That was one thing, but they thought, what about the poor people? Let them enjoy Ramadan.
That was debts. When somebody was in debt, they would pay that off. And
the way of the companions, was it not to try and pay?
You see, for zakat, this is a big problem we have nowadays, is that everybody thinks zakat is in Ramadan Sharif. But it doesn't work like that. For each individual is different. When you passed a particular criteria, then that particular day, it is wajib for you to give zakat. for that particular day, and this is different for different people. So many people think, oh, it's Ramadan, Ramadan's coming, I'm going to give my zakat. Yes, it's good. The scholars say that it's good to give it in Ramadan Sharif, but when? That's when you're giving it ahead. It's not that you delay it and then give it in Ramadan Sharif. For example, if you need to give it in Muharram, Safar, Rabi'ul Awwal, Rabi'ul Akhir, or even to say Sha'ban, you need to give it in the month of Sha'ban, the first of Sha'ban. And you think to yourself, oh, 1 month of Ramadan, you get more reward in Ramadan. For all this time you are not, this time that you are not giving it, you are being sinful for that.
Oh, very, very.
Because it's wajib to give it as soon as your time comes. لا يتحسر أهل الجنة إلا على ساع مرت بهم ولم يذكر الله. That the people of Jannah, it said that the people of Jannah have no regret except one.
Allah.
They've entered Jannah and they have one regret. What's his regret? That moment which passed and they had not done the zikr of Allah.
In this world, Allahu Akbar. It's such a precious month. So the mentality, Shahbaz Bhai, that needs to be there is, this is something truly unique and special, and I need to take hold of it with both hands. And if I don't, I am missing a big opportunity in my life.
I mean, the Buzurgan-e-Deen, they say, istiqamat, steadfastness is karamat. Meaning a person that becomes steadfast in an action, that is a miracle in itself. And unfortunately, in this day and age, we think everything is lastminute.com. I'm going to become a Ramadan, the first of Ramadan, as an example, is tomorrow. I'm going to become a namazi tomorrow. It's now. We need to become a namazi today. I'm going to recite the Holy Quran in the month of Ramadan. No, we need to start reciting the Quran today, now. If, I'm going to do the dhikr of Allah Almighty. You need to start the zikr today. Inshallah, Ramadan Mubarak may be karenge, but like you mentioned earlier on, we're going to get more reward for doing it then. But we need to start it today in order to be able to carry it forward.
If I said to you, right, you've got to run a 10-kilometer race, yeah? And you've got to do it tonight. You say, you must be joking.
I was going to say, yeah.
We've got no chance. We've got no chance. Okay, I tell you it's in a month's time, yeah? And then for the next month, you occasionally think about it. And then on day one, when you're at the race line, you think, okay, here I am. Is your performance going to be any better than it is today just by thinking about it? No, it isn't, is it? The way it would be is you think, right, today what I'll do is I'll go for a walk. Tomorrow, I'll walk a bit and I'll run a bit. The day after, I'll run it all, but I'll run it at a slow pace. I'll only do a kilometer. In a week, I'm running a kilometer. In 2 weeks, I'm running 4 kilometers. In 3 weeks, I'm running 6, 8 kilometers. And then, if you come to the racetrack on that day, 4 weeks later, 10K, I've actually done that. I've done two of the marathons in my early ages. And so, you have to train for it. Now, in Ramadan al-Mubarak, Shahbaz Bhai, isn't it exactly the same? If I say on the first of Ramadan, right, 30 days, 30 pare, got to do it, belly did just by, I'll do it, and I'll start read it, and everybody does that. Sit proud, oh, my spara, I've read my spara. I read my 5 namazan. Oh yeah, I did my zikr, yeah. Day 2, it's a bit, you've got your fasting all day, you're working as well, you open the roza, you've got the beautiful Tarawih prayers, you then listen to Dars Mubarak after the Tarawih prayers, you get up for Sehri, your body clock's all over the place, the food you're eating, everything else, yeah? And so day 2 is a bit more difficult, and it starts to slack off. Now, am I not like that racer?
I was going to say the theme or the wording behind it is old habits die hard.
Wow.
So if you've got these old habits,
a lot of lines, isn't it?
MashaAllah, he's informed today.
If you've got these old habits, they're not going to just die off overnight. Alhamdulillah, Dawat Islami has got Madani Kafila. And when you travel on this Madani Kafila, it gets you into that routine, waking up early in the morning, to offer tahajjud namaz, offer your namazi fajr. You're even there before the muezzin walks in through the door, even before the central heating kicks in. You're there in the Jai namaz, ready to offer your namaz, alhamdulillah, and it gets you into that routine. So, this is what a mahol does for you.
No, but I don't know, it's not rocket science. You see, this is the problem, Shahbaz Bhai. When it comes to worldly things, we tend to analyze them. We know how to make some money good, and if we learn an idea, we'll implement it straight away. When it comes to the deen, our brain slacks off. Let me give you an example. we would want to read one para of the Quran at least every day. We'd want to read a little bit of translation and tafsir every day in Ramadan Mubarak. We'd like to read at least 313 times Durood Pak in Ramzan Mubarak. We'd like to do some zikr of Allah Azza wa Jalla. We'd like to serve our parents. We'd like to spend our time doing good deeds. Yeah? What happens is I take that same goal and I say 1st of Shaban or 30th of Rajab, and today I'm going to read at least, if I don't read any, and a lot of brothers don't, unfortunately, I'm going to read one ruku with translation, with tafsir. It's going to take me 20 minutes. Or I'm going to read one ruku, 3 ayats with translation and tafsir, yeah? Right, 10 minutes. Okay. Tomorrow, I do the same. Tuesday, I increase to a quarter para. Saturday.
Is that with translation and tafsir?
No, not with translation. Obviously, it's going to be difficult for everybody to read the whole Quran through Ramadan with translation and tafsir. Although, on that, I'll give you a beautiful Madani story. We've got an old Muballigh in the UK who, during the lockdown, he read Siratul Jinan Sharif 3 times. Between, I think, March and October, from recollection, Hafizah was telling us. And he read Siratul Jinan Sharif 3 times. But say, let's stick to the para. One para. So I start off with a few rukus. In a week, I'm doing a quarter para a day. In 2 weeks, I'm doing half a para a day. In 3 to 4 weeks, I'm doing a para a day. Yeah? When it comes to Ramzan Mubarak, because I've gradually built it up, will it be difficult for me to maintain that? Of course it won't, because I'm getting into the habit. Now I'm talking about Durood Pak. I'm protecting my salah as well. I'm trying to get to the masjid. I want to pray my salah in masjid in Ramzan. Everybody wants to. But I only managed to pull it off. When I say I'm using the metaphorical I'm not saying Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Through the barakat of the blessed mahal of Dawat Islami, we try to get to the masjid as much as we can. But I'm talking about the individual, the viewers of Madani Channel who are watching, that if you want to get to the masjid every day, today's your time, isn't it? Start with Fajr and Isha for the next month. You will make sure during Ramzan you're already trained for that. And during the day, try and get to the masjid and you're trained for that. If you want to read, there are brothers who are reading 12,000 times Durood Pak a day during Ramzan. A day. Right? And they're carrying with their work as well. I'll tell you a little story about that in a second. But if you want to get to 12,000, if you start off with 1,000 and maintain it for the next week or two, then increase to 2 and 3 and 4, you'll be able to do that. We went, Hafiz Rafaqat Sahib and I went to Palestine a few years ago, and there was a brother with us, and he was with us doing everything we were doing, but he was reciting through the Pak over 10,000 times a day. And we had then a Madani competition between all of us. We all had our little counters, and we tried to stick with him, and most of us got to 6,000 and 7,000 and 8,000, and gradually, as we came back, we tried to maintain it, but we couldn't. But this brother had built it up slowly, and he'd got himself to that. And when somebody tells you somebody reads Durood Pak 12,000 times a day, you think that's the stories of the old. It isn't. There are still people in this world at the moment, even in this country, who read 100 nafils a night before they go to sleep. Our Imam Sahib was mentioning the other day that there are people who still spend their nights on the prayer mat. There are still people who spend their nights reading the glorious Quran. There are still people who are reading Durood Pak 12,000 times. We just live in this fanciful dunyavi world where we think, just because I'm not doing it, nobody's doing it. Imam Ghazali Rahmatullah Alayhi says actually that doing good deeds is actually quite easy.
Allah.
Doing good deeds is easy. It's actually giving up the sins that is difficult. Allah. That is the test. When we see Ramzan Mubarak, everybody's flocking in to do the good deeds. It's giving up the sins. And now the question to you is this: how can we try and give up those sins that were ingrained into us? Some people have a habit of backbiting. Some people have a habit of being habitual liars. Some people have a habit of taking drugs, for example. Some people have a habit of being disrespectful to parents. How do those people change?
It's mentioned that fasting itself is a shield. So it said that fasting itself is a shield. So fasting is a shield. It will protect you. It will allow you, help you to suppress your desires. And when a person is fasting, he commits less sins. Why? Because he knows he's hungry. He feels the urge to eat. So which reminds him that he's fasting. And when he knows he's fasting, he'll think, I'm fasting, I cannot lie. I'm fasting, I shouldn't do this. I'm fasting, I shouldn't do that. That's the best I am able to answer your question.
Subhanallah.
Subhanallah. You know, convincing yourself that something really special is coming, the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, and then gradually working towards it, having the Madani mindset. And one of the ways you can do that is by watching Madani Channel. Because constantly, Madani Channel is reminding you of this blessed month that's coming. I mean, Amir al-Sunnah, you know, as I say, is always talking about it. It's literally, and this is, I've weighed the respect of this, Amir al-Sunnah, all their lives are saying, this month is amazing, do not miss it. And, you know, and in hearts of so many people, this one hasti has instilled the love of Ramadan, that, you know, it's unbelievable. You've got people who cry in the love of Ramadan because they see Amir al-Sunnah crying. And, you know, it makes you appreciate. But the first time I saw Amir al-Sunnah crying on the last Friday of Ramadan, I didn't understand it. Obviously, you know, seeing it for the first time, being born and bred in this country, you know, effectively, I thought, why are they crying? Why are they crying? We've had such a great month. And suddenly it dawned on me that we've had all these blessings, and the blessings are leaving us, or we may not see it again. And then, you know, Amir al-Sunnah writing al-maut everywhere, and suddenly it changes your perspective, doesn't it? And it makes you think, that what if this is my last Ramzan? What if I go into my grave not taking advantage of this Ramzan? And this is why preparation for Ramzan al-Mubarak is important.
I was going to mention two things. One is that Imam Shafi'i, because we were speaking about him, he would complete the Quran every single day. For Ramadan al-Mubarak, he would complete one in the day, one in the night. Second thing, that if anybody does wish to change themselves, it's not going to be easy at first, which is true. It's not going to be easy at first. It's going to be hard. The shaitan is going to try anything and everything. But one thing you must remember, the scholars state, some state 30, some state 40 days, that for you to perform or to become regular at something, for you to adopt some sort of habit, you need to first try to implement that or act upon that for 40 days. Once you've done it for 40 days, after that, subconsciously, easily, you'll be able to perform.
Subhanallah. Beautiful Madani pearls. Islam doesn't allocate one day for children, one day for father, one day for mother. No. Islam says every single day is Father's Day, every single day is Mother's Day, every single day is Children's Day, every single day is Teacher's Day. This is the beauty of Islam. And so we should be loving our parents all year round. I've got a minute or two left for Madani Recharge. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu.
Remember the hereafter, and you will remember why you are here and what you are after.
A very beautiful hadith mubarakah. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam is sat with al-Mu'mineen Hazrat Aisha Siddiqa radiyallahu ta'ala anha, and the stars are out. And she says, Ya Rasulallah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, does anybody have good deeds equivalent to these stars? And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, yes, my Ummah has. And obviously she's the daughter of the great Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. So in her heart she feels that, what about my father? You know, and the stars, there's so many of them. So in her heart there's this. So she says, Ya Rasulallah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what about my father? And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that all of Umar's good deeds can't match the deed of the cave of Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. That one blessed, you know, companionship of that ghar that Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, you know, served Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When it comes to the love of the best of creation sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in the world, there can be no greater example than Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. Indeed, Aka Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that I've repaid everybody for what they did for Islam. But Abu Bakr is one person, Allah Azza wa Jal will repay him for everything he's done. And this is how amazing it was. What got him to those heights? It was the love of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Whenever Aka Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said something, he said, Labbaik, Labbaik ya Rasulullah. That's it. And that's it. When it was the command of Allah and His Habib, Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala obeyed. Gosh, we get that jazba as well. That when we learn the commands of Allah and His Habib, we don't look left and right. we just look straight and see the beautiful Gumbad-e-Khazra Sharif and lower our heads and act upon it. Ameen bijahin Nabil Ameen sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu
ta'ala alayhi wa ala.
Remember the hereafter, and you will remember why you are here. Remember the hereafter, and you will remember why you are here and what you are.